Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and salam sejahtera. My name is Ezzat Fahmi bin Ahmad. I came from UiTM Perak. Today I'm going to present my research which is entitled Physical Components Resilient Criteria by Districts in Kelantan. This is the content for presentation today, starting from definition of terms, introduction, objective, research methodology, findings, and lastly is conclusion. Before I go further, let me define the terms which commonly used in this research. First is resilient. Resilient is the capacity of a system potentially exposed to threat of a natural disasters to survive, adapt, and recover from a natural disaster's effect in a timely and efficient manner. Meanwhile, physical components refers to the basic structures and facilities, as example, energy, water and waste, transportation, telecommunication and building, needed to enable, sustain or enhance societal living condition. Why resilience is needed? For your information, a natural disaster's impact can be measured in three categories. Number one is total damage, number two is total people killed, and lastly is total affected people. The data shown by the EMDAT towards the economic and human impact during 2009 until 2019, the natural disaster faced by the nation has caused about 480 million total damage, 369 total people killed, and lastly, 2.61 million total affected people. In addition, 9% of the total land area in Malaysia is prone to flooding and affected 2.7 million people, which cause average annual flood damage is as high as 100 million ringgit. The diagram has shown the timeline for the flood in Kelantan starting from 1926, 1967, 2004, and lastly is 2014. It's shown that the gap between the flood event in Kelantan has become shorter. Damage and insufficient of physical components impacted by flood has dramatically disrupted the livelihood in the affected area. Therefore, it is crucial to strengthen the resilience of physical components for community in flood-prone areas, especially in Kelantan. However, in previous research on disaster resilience shows that the community's disaster hit zones needs may vary by the different location. The statement can be linked with the study where different flood-affected areas have different priorities regarding resilience criteria in that particular area. Hence, the objective of this research is to determine a significant difference between the resilience criteria in different Kelantan districts. To answer the objective number one, a set of criteria were obtained based on the previous study made by the Bruni et al., which consists of four main criteria, which is robustness, resourcefulness, rapidity, and redundancy. Meanwhile, the sub-resilient criteria in this study were discovered through a literature review based on the previous study regarding to the transportation resilience, earthquake resilience, tsunami resilience, and also volcano eruption resilience. For the research methodology, the questionnaire survey method was utilized for the study. For the study, purposive sampling was used based on respondents' experience with flood disaster events. However, the selection was mainly focused on the community in flood-affected areas in identified district in Kelantan. Based on previous studies by Po and Hashim 2016 and Said Hussein and Ismail 2016, the flood-affected areas in Kelantan involving several districts such as Kota Baru, Pasir Mas, Tumpat, Tanah Merah, Machang, Kuala Krai, Jeli, and Gua Musang. These districts are located at several main rivers including Sungai Kelantan, Sungai Lebeh, Sungai Galas, and Sungai Pergau. Meanwhile, by referring to Mercy 2016, in terms of disaster, the community can be categorized into four main groups, which are governments, private sectors, learning institutions, and communities. Thus, the survey was distributed to these several districts among the 4 most important target groups, as mentioned before. The analysis is to discover the extent of which level of resilience criteria by flood-affected areas in Kelantan. The comparison was made between the different flood-affected areas in Kelantan, such as Machang, Jeli, Gua Musang, Kuala Krai, Tanah Merah, Pasir Mas, Kota Baru, and Tumpai. The comparison is to identify any variation from mean score result from Table 1. Table 1 shown a mean value comparison of the extent to the resilient criteria level to the different flood-affected areas in Kelantan. There are differences between the most important resilient criteria and the location of flood-prone areas in Kelantan. This finding then led the study to further analyze the difference between the resilient criteria and the location of flood-affected areas as suggested by the previous study. An attempt was made to develop a significant relationship between flood-affected areas and resilient criteria using the Pearson correlation coefficient. As the location of the flood-affected areas in Kelantan, it is expected that there are differences in terms of resilient criteria to strengthen physical components. Hence, the Pearson correlation coefficient was used to identify the relationship between the flood-affected areas location and the resilient criteria. According to Cohen 1988, the correlation coefficient can be assessed by the small indicator, medium indicator, and large indicator. Since the correlation coefficient are between the physical resilient components and flood-affected areas in Kelantan resulted in a value of 0.420, indicating that the correlation coefficient lies at the medium level. Hence, this study is aligned with research done by the previous researcher on disaster resilience, where the needs of the community in disaster hit zone may vary by the different location. As the conclusion, Kelantan has been prone to the natural disasters, particularly flood, in recent years, which has been negatively impacting community in flood-prone areas. Therefore, strengthening resilience of physical components is crucial in the face of expected increase of the flood in the future. Furthermore, the authors believe the studies can serve as a platform for other researchers to launch into this field and find a way to strengthen resilience of physical components in other flood-prone areas. If you have any question, recommendation, or suggestion, you may contact me through the phone number 013-352-8786 or through my email izzatfahmiahmad@gmail.com. This is my Padlet. Here I'm sharing my slide and framework of my studies. You may contact me through my Padlet platform. This is QR code for my Padlet platform. I think that's all from me. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and salam sejahtera.